Hey everybody, I'm Tomebinder, and in this video I'm going to be showing you a bunch of tutorials on how to use the Ancient Warfare 3 scripting engine. Hopefully these tips help you become more comfortable scripting so more people can take advantage of this feature, which I think is one of the most important in the entire game. Alright, there's a lot to talk about, so let's begin. Pressing the third to the right button in the custom battle editor will open up the scripting menu. You can create triggers, lights, and global variables here. Scripts need a container. This can be an object on the map, such as a crate, or they can be independently stored in the Global Variables tab. Generally, I prefer to use Global Variables because they are quicker to access, but either system works. When you click an object in the scripting editor, you can see if there are any scripts stored inside, and edit them. You can also click the Global Variables tab, which functions the exact same way. Once you've selected the container you want to use to store your script, press the New Script button to make a brand new one, or click the pencil icon to edit one that already exists. This will open up the script editor, which looks very different from the main look of Ancient Warfare 3. Here are some basic controls you'll want to know when using the script editor. Here's a very basic example of how scripts work. The node with the lightning icon is an event node, which means it causes things to happen. In this case, things will happen if a unit enters the cube trigger I placed earlier. I will set the script to deliver a short message, "Hello World," when I enter the area occupied by the trigger. Scripting nodes are connected at triangular points from left to right. The order in which they're connected determines the order in which things happen. In this case, the timeline of events is very simple. First, a unit is detected entering the cubicle trigger. Then, a small message saying "Hello World" appears on screen. In the script editor, we work with multiple types of variables in order to write our programs. The message saying "Hello World" is called a string. However, there are plenty of other types. For example, integers are whole numbers and usually used for math programs like adding up points. Floats can be whole numbers or numbers with decimals in them for more precise calculations. Bools are a true-false variable, which are off or false by default. Checking the box on the bool node turns it on or true. And finally, strings are variables which can hold text, which is what I used for this program. Nodes like quick info, which I'm using to send my "Hello World" message, have inputs, represented by empty boxes. These can be filled only by variables of the appropriate type, which are represented in parentheses. For example, an integer will not connect to a string input unless you convert it to a string. However, it will work perfectly in an add node. Now, it's time to test our simple script. Everything seems to be working as intended. When I walk into the trigger, the message appears. To remember what the script is called, and to differentiate it from the other ones in this container, I'm going to call it "Hello World." The problem with this script is that it will run if any unit enters the trigger area. I only want to see the message when the player enters the trigger. To do this, we have to use an equals node, which will compare the unit entering the trigger with the player. If the two units are identical, the message will appear as intended. If they are different, nothing will happen. To make sure that the message only appears when the player walks through the trigger, I've sent another unit to walk through the trigger area. But as you can see, it only works for me. Knowing how to do this will be important to make sure that AI units don't mess with your scripts in major battles. I forgot to mention it earlier, but you can actually make your own variables. In the bottom right corner of the script editor, you can create and define custom variables that appear only in one script. You can also place as physical objects things called global variables. These are variables that can be referenced by multiple scripts throughout the map. However, they have to be referenced a bit differently, because they're actually physical objects rather than pure data. You can also set up triggers to inflict negative effects on units that enter them, but again, this will only work if the variable matches the input. To change this unit variable to fit the kill node properly, we have to make a unit to health conversion. Changing input types only requires one node and allows you to use variables in places they wouldn't normally fit. The result is, we can kill any unit that enters the trigger. You can also do things like set units on fire if you want. Earlier I used the quick info node to display a small message on the player's screen, but what if you want a message that's more in your face? Well, the right node for that is definitely info center or info. For this next part, we'll be working with doors, alarms, and buttons, so I need to build a small structure. Button press is an event node just like trigger enter, but is connected to an object rather than an invisible area. For this script, I'm connecting it to an alarm object to create an alert when the button is pressed. We'll be able to hear it in the game world. Now, I'll use a delay node to make the alarm turn off after 5 seconds. Delays are very useful in many different situations. Now I'm going to make a script where pressing the button toggles the alarm on and off. Upon being pressed, it determines whether the alarm is active, and if it is, it turns it off. If it's not active, it turns it on. Notice that the reference to the alarm in the script can be connected to multiple nodes. Since I want to be able to get through this locked door, I'll add a script that unlocks it when the button is pressed, regardless of whether the alarm is turned on or off. Once again, make sure you have the right inputs. A lock node will not connect with the door node. It's very easy to switch out a button for a switch in this situation. You only have to change one node. You can also connect scripts to Codelocks. These are physical mechanisms that accept 1, 2, 3, or 4-digit codes. They're only slightly more complicated to implement than a button or switch. You just need to use a different event node and have it check whether the passcode the player types in is correct using comparison. Here's an example. You can also use a unit's death as the trigger event for something like a door being unlocked. Let's get a little more complicated. For starters, we need to make sure that the script connected to this trigger only happens a single time. To do that, use a custom bool variable, make the script only run when the variable is off, which it will be by default. Then set the script to enable the variable when it starts running, ensuring that the program will only run a single time. We're going to make a script that turns on a hallway full of lights all at once. There is a way to do this. I'm going to use this opportunity to teach you about arrays. Arrays can store any single type of variable, ranging from an integer to a custom unit. In this case, we will fill our array with 8 light objects that we've just placed down. I've manually turned these lights off, but by using a getElement node, which grabs an item in the array, and the loop node, connecting the two, we can switch all of them to turn on instantly. It's good to know how to use arrays in this way because they have many uses in the more advanced aspects of script writing. You can see that I've set the loop to repeat 8 times, once for each light in the array. Since everything after the loop will be repeated, I will add a setIsOn node to enable each light when it's their turn. Since there is no delay between each light, the whole thing will happen instantaneously. Now we're going to make a basic death screen that informs the player how long they survived. To do this, I'm using what's called a concat node. It merges together 2 strings to create a single one. This death message will consist of 3 parts. The first string says "you survived 4", the second string will contain the exact length of time the player survived, and the third string will say seconds. Using concats, we can merge all 3 together and project the result on the player's screen. Concats are very helpful when you need to make the value of a variable appear on the screen. If you use a bit of scripting, the player's death doesn't have to mean the end of the action. A very simple program allows you to instantly take control of another unit when your character dies. This could work great as a respawn system. You can also write a script so that the player takes control of whichever unit kills them. This is very fun in a big battle. Now these two cowboys are going to duel. First, I've scripted it so that the red unit ignores the player, who is blue. Then I will make both units walk a good distance apart before turning around and firing at each other. This duel script makes use of both the set target position and the set target node. Keep in mind that these are very different. The set target position node sends a unit to a certain spot on the map, while the set target node determines who they're shooting at. For fun, I've also decided to slow down time when they start to draw their guns on each other. Keep in mind that the set timescale node goes from 0 to 8, but 1 is the default time for Ancient Warfare 3. Anything below 1 will be slower, and anything above 1 will be faster. Timescale can also have some interesting effects on the game. Now we just set the two units to target each other, and the duel script is complete. In my campaign The Good of the Company, I used Ancient Warfare 3's sound nodes to create voice lines so the units could actually talk out loud to the player. I received some requests on how to do that, so I'll show you now. First, you have to get the answer ID of the dialog box before the one you're narrating. To get this ID, just click the icon in the top left corner of the dialog. For some reason, you have to have a non-narrated box before you can start filling in voice lines properly. I'll represent that with a descriptive bit of information on the character I'm talking to explain why he's not speaking out loud. Once this is done, however, everything else they say can be narrated. Morning, Chief. Now we'll have him go over and unlock the door for us after he says his voice line. morning, Chief. If you don't want to deal with the quirks of scripting voice-acted dialog boxes, such as the one you just saw, you can also synchronize an info message with a voice line to get this. Carl, you've arrived. I'm glad. We couldn't have waited for you much longer. You'll want to hear what I have to say. Cross the metal line there. No games this time, please. Now I'm going to show you how to get a working points system. The goal here is to script a program where every time I kill one of these zombies, I gain 10 points. This will have a variety of uses. You could use it as an XP system, currency, or leaderboard. The goal for this video is really just to give you some ideas and get your mind working. I can't anticipate everything you want to make with the scripting system, but I hope this gives you an idea of what tools you have at your disposal. You can also replace the points idea with money. Money has the benefit of being supported by the game engine by default, and you can use it to buy items from trading units. Now we're going to travel to a different planet to test out some more scripting features. As you can see, I've set the gravity to -4. The default gravity in Ancient Warfare 3 is -9.81. The closer it gets to 0, the less gravity there is. So on this planet, the gravity is about 50% as strong as it would normally be in Ancient Warfare 3. However, there are some hostile aliens here as well. Spawning in units rather than having them pre-placed in the custom battle editor is a lot better for the performance and FPS of your maps, so it's something you should strongly consider doing wherever possible. If you want to spawn a large horde of units, but don't want to endlessly copy and paste nodes like what you just saw, you can use an array. However, if you spawn units with an array, they will all spawn in the exact same position, so you should make sure to spawn them in an area that isn't directly visible by the player, or it could break their immersion. Since the units won't be able to see the player either, by default they won't attack them, so you should take care to set their target manually beforehand. I'll show you how. Now let's give the player the ability to teleport around the map. When they press the P button, they should teleport to the position that their crosshair is resting on. This uses the raycast node, which generates an invisible line from the player to the position their crosshair is on. For fun, we'll also generate a future explosion on the position the player teleports to. It won't do any damage though. So let's try that again. Whew, well, it's about all I had to tell you guys, to be honest. I tried to cover as much ground as I possibly could. I'm aware, obviously, this is definitely a non-comprehensive video. And I just thought that the game could use a new guide to scripting, since it's been a very long time since we've had one out on YouTube. I definitely hope this helps someone when they're making a video or campaign, or a map or a campaign, is what I meant to say there. If you have any questions for me, that I did not address in this video, please be sure to leave a YouTube comment, contact me on Steam, contact me on the JNI server, and I am willing to either answer your question to the best of my abilities or direct you to somebody who knows more than me on this subject. So there you have it. I hope somebody takes some of these ideas and makes them their own. Again, these ideas are very specific, so I hope that somebody is like, oh wait, this idea for a teleportation gun, I can use that, but kind of change it a little bit so it's a teleportation machine, or, you know what I mean, something like that. I just hope that this reaches an audience of Ancient Warfare 3 creators who would like to learn more about the scripting editor. So with that out of the way, I just want to thank everybody for watching this video. I know it's been kind of a long one. Normally I do streams, but I still kind of enjoyed making a scripted video, because yes, a lot of this was scripted. This right here is not scripted though, if you couldn't tell. Alright, so if you want to see more content like this, more tutorials, please just let me know. This is just kind of dipping my foot into this new area of Ancient Warfare 3 content. So if you like this kind of thing, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream.